In this video, you will learn about how our body detects and interprets different kinds of sensory information, what we call sensory modalities. Let's start with the basics. Sensory receptors are specialized cells that detect stimuli or changes in our internal or external environment. These receptors allow the nervous system to monitor conditions inside the body, like blood pressure or temperature, as well as external conditions like touch or sound. Now, depending on the kind of information being detected, we group sensations into categories called sensory modalities. Each sensory modality is detected by specific types of receptors and then sent to the brain along distinct afferent or sensory pathways. First, we have the general senses. These are detected by somatosensory receptors that are widely distributed throughout the body, in the skin, muscles, joints, and visceral organs. General senses include several somatosensory modalities, such as fine touch that can be localized, crude touch that cannot be localized, itch, pain, and temperature. Another general sense is called proprioception, which is the sense of body position. Stretch receptors in the skin, joints, and muscles monitor body position for proprioception. Bulbous corpuscles detect stretching of the skin and joints. Muscle spindles detect stretching of the muscles. General sensory information, also known as somatosensory information, is relayed into the brain to enable conscious perception. This information is processed by somatosensory cortex in the postcentral gyrus of the parietal lobe, while the trigeminal nerves carry this general sensory information from the face. Spinal nerves relay somatosensory information from the rest of the body into the spinal cord, where it travels up to the brain through the dorsal column system and spinothalamic tract. The thalamus relays somatosensory information to the postcentral gyrus, and specific regions within the postcentral gyrus are dedicated to perception of information coming from distinct regions of the body. This map of the primary somatosensory cortex showing the corresponding regions of the body processed within cortical areas is known as the somatosensory homunculus. While the general senses give us a continuous stream of information about what's happening all over our body, the special senses are detected by receptors that are concentrated within specific sensory organs: the eyes, ears, nose, and tongue. Let's go through each of the special sensory modalities. For vision, light is the stimulus detected by photoreceptor cells in the retina of the eye. For audition, commonly known as hearing, sound waves are the stimulus detected by hair cell receptors in the cochlea of the inner ear. For equilibrium, or the vestibular sense, acceleration is detected by hair cells in the vestibule of the inner ear. For olfaction, or smell, molecules dissolved in the mucus of the nasal cavity are detected by olfactory receptor cells. For gustation, commonly known as taste, chemicals dissolved in saliva are detected by gustatory receptor cells within the taste buds of the tongue. So, unlike the general senses, these special senses rely on specialized organs designed to detect specific kinds of stimuli. Special sensory information is relayed into the brain from these sensory organs through cranial nerves, and within the brain, perception of special sensory information involves processing in dedicated areas of the cerebral cortex. For example, the optic nerves carry vision into the brain, and the primary visual cortex is in the occipital lobe. Now that we've identified the different sensory modalities, let's look at how a stimulus is detected by a sensory receptor, a process called sensory transduction. Each receptor monitors a particular receptive field, which is simply the area of the environment that it's responsible for detecting. When a stimulus is detected, sensory transduction occurs, meaning that the stimulus causes ion channels in the receptor cell's membrane to open or close. This creates what's called a receptor potential, which influences neurotransmitter release from the sensory receptor and the frequency of action potentials in the neurons of the sensory pathway. Different receptors are specialized to detect different kinds of stimuli. Mechanoreceptors respond to physical forces like pressure, vibration, and stretch. These forces literally pull open ion channels in the cell membrane, generating receptor potentials. Chemoreceptors detect chemicals dissolved in body fluids. Examples include olfactory receptors for smell and gustatory receptors for taste. For many chemoreceptors, the stimulus molecule, or ligand, binds to a receptor protein on the membrane, which triggers second messenger pathways inside the cell. These second messengers then open or close ion channels to create receptor potentials. When photoreceptors in the eye detect light, specific membrane proteins respond through second messenger signals to regulate ion channels and produce electrical responses. When thermoreceptors respond to temperature changes, their membrane proteins act as ion channels that open directly, generating receptor potentials. To summarize, general senses are detected throughout the body by somatosensory receptors. Special senses rely on specialized organs that detect specific types of stimuli. In every case, sensory transduction converts a physical or chemical stimulus into an electrical signal, the language of the nervous system. That's how your body transforms what's happening around you: light, sound, temperature, and touch into the sensations you perceive.